The NFL offseason is here, baby, as a lot of news has dropped today with free agency lurking on Monday. My name is Harrison Graham. Welcome into Four Verts. We got a lot of NFL news to react to here on today's show, so let's go ahead and dive in. DK Metcalf has requested a trade from the Seattle Seahawks. This coming after the news that Tyler Lockett himself announced that the Seahawks are going to be moving on. That move saved Seattle $17 million. They've been cutting a flurry of players over the last couple of days to clear up cap space. And there had been some rumors that maybe a DK trade could be on the horizon. Would he want to request out? And now that is the case. And not only is it the case, Ian Rappaport mentioned they're going to explore it. They are open to trading him, it sounds like, if they can get a deal that they want. I'm not sure I know what Seattle's plan is. Now, I do think they have smart people in that organization. I think John Schneider's a pretty good GM. I think Mike McDonald is a smart guy. But if you trade DK, it kind of feels like, what is your direction at least in 2025? I'm not really sure what that is. You got Geno 1 year left in his deal. We'll talk about him in a minute. What do you do there? But I know this. There's going to be a lot of teams interested in DK Metcalf, a physical specimen like that who can run the way he does. I think 5 teams stand out. Patriots are an obvious one. It's been well reported they are desperate for a number 1 receiver for Drake May. I don't know if DK would want to go there, but if they give him Justin Jefferson money, which if I'm the Patriots, I probably would, even though he's not Jetta because they have so much cap space. It'd be tough to turn down if you're DK Metcalf, become Drake May's top option. Packers are an intriguing one. They could offer one of their young receivers plus like a day 2 pick. That could be an option. The Steelers, could they be in play? They need a receiver opposite of George Pickens and a more stable long-term option. I don't think they want to pay Pickens long-term. The Raiders, you got the Pete Carroll connection. They don't have a true number 1. DK and Brock Bowers, it's a pretty interesting dynamic offensively. And then the Chargers. Certainly Justin Herbert needs a weapon there. I wonder if they'd be in the mix. I don't think they'd reset the market with DK, but I think that could be an option as well. Now, when you take a look back at Seattle, if they trade DK, do you just blow it up? There's been some chatter that they might extend Geno Smith, but do you just trade him instead? Like, if you can get a day 2 pick for Geno, would you just do that? Get capital for DK, get capital for Geno. Either you probably wouldn't draft a quarterback this year, but maybe you load up on capital next year and you try to get a QB then. Just kind of tank this year. You know, if you want to go with Sam Howell, if you want to sign a Gardner Minshew, maybe you get Kirk Cousins if he gets cut. Play this year out, be bad for a year, and then load back up. Because I do think this regime can rebuild a franchise. It's not ideal because it's year 2. You'd rather do this in year 1 of a build, but they've been kind of stuck in the middle, and maybe they're just like, you know what, with Geno, DK wants out, we're probably never going to be more than a 10-win team. Let's just blow it up and try to get a quarterback next year. I could certainly see that being the case. It's not fun if you're a Seahawks fan, kind of knowing going in you're going to be bad for a year, but I don't think it'd be one of those like 3-year blow-ups. Like, I think they could blow it up for 1 year and reload for 2026 and beyond. I think Seattle would have the assets to do that if they trade DK Metcalf and Geno Smith as well. All right, I told you guys yesterday, this is the time to subscribe to the channel because we're reacting to all the big storylines, news, rumors, trades, free agency, draft. I got a Shedeur Sanders video that's going to be going up soon, so stay tuned for that. Lots of content here for you guys. I would love to get to 9,000 subs ASAP. Goal is 10,000 by the end of the NFL draft. Let's make it happen. Daily content here on 4 Verts for 100% free. Okay, mega contract extension for Maxx Crosby. The Raiders have inked him to a 3-year, $106.5 million extension, $91.5 guaranteed, making him the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. And look, if I was Maxx Crosby, I probably would have won it out by now. But I do respect that he wants to win in Vegas. Like, he loves being a Las Vegas Raider. And not many high-level players would probably say that, right? Like, the Raiders have been a joke. In Oakland, they had no money. They do have money now. They're flush with cash in Vegas. That was a good move for them. But cycling coaches year in and year out, Crosby wants to make it work there. Like, I respect him for that. I said last year I would have requested a trade at the deadline, try to go to Detroit after Aiden Hutchinson got hurt. But, hey, he's sticking it out. He wants to be there. There was chatter maybe he wouldn't commit long-term. But you know what this tells me? I think Pete Carroll has stepped in and built a relationship immediately. I think Max feels good about the direction under Pete Carroll. There's competency back in the building with him and GM John Spytek, who has had success in Tampa. I think Max is like, you know what? If you're going to make me the highest paid player, Pete Carroll brings this credibility. I'll stick this out for at least another contract. So good for the Raiders. This is what you have to do. Homegrown star talent, you don't let those guys out of the building. I know the Browns are at a crossroads. I think that's a different situation. I would trade Myles Garrett if I were them. But if I'm the Raiders, that fan base is so passionate about Maxx Crosby, you're going to upset some fans if you ship him out. So I don't blame them whatsoever for getting this deal done. Now, who's next? Because several pass rushers could be looking to ink new deals. Myles Garrett and Micah Parsons stand out. Parsons, 25 years old, entering his prime, one of the premier pass rushers in this league. Dallas just restructured Dak Prescott. They re-signed Osa Odighizuwa. They've got money to get that deal done. We'll see if Jerry Slow plays that. He typically takes too long and ends up having to pay more. The Myles Garrett thing is tricky because he says he doesn't want to negotiate with Cleveland. He wants to go to a new team. So that one could take longer if they're going to be stubborn and not trade him. And then Trey Hendrickson at 31, does he get $35 million? Like, could he top Crosby? Maybe on a 2-year deal he could, but I don't think he's getting a 3, 4, 5-year extension. He's got 1 year left. Certainly due for a pay raise, but back-to-back 17.5 sack seasons, but he is a little bit older. So that one will be interesting. I mean, if the Bengals can keep him in the low 30s, I think they would try to keep him. But if not, maybe they end up trading him to another team. Predict it for us. Who signs a big extension next? Maybe there's another player we're not talking about. Let us know in the comments section down below which player gets inked next. There was a trade earlier today for the second day in a row. The Bears have traded for a veteran offensive lineman. They get a better one today than they did yesterday in Jonah Jackson. Today they add Joe Thuney, 2026, fourth-round pick going to Kansas City. They get the 4-time All-Pro guard, 3-time Super Bowl champion in Chicago for 2025. Some chatter they could extend him. At 32 years old, maybe you do like a 2-year extension, make it a 3-year deal in total. Certainly could be on the table. As of now, he has a $16 million cap hit for this year, so certainly a manageable number if they want to keep him at that price tag. Instant reaction is the Bears aren't messing around. Once Trey Smith got franchise tagged by the Kansas City Chiefs, they looked at the free agent market and they said, you know what, there's too many question marks. Will Fries is an intriguing young piece, broke his tibia last year. Mekhi Becton had a great year in Philadelphia, was considered a bust before that with some injuries. Kevin Zeitler, 34-35. Maybe they still bring him in with the Ben Johnson connection. Brandon Scherf, an older player who's been declining a little bit. Joe Thuney was an all-pro last year. He might be 32, but he's still at the top of his game. So that's a big-time move. He's going to elevate that line, and they needed a leader in that offensive line room, and he provides that with his winning leadership and experience right away, and he's still a tip-top player, no question about it. And for the Chiefs, you can't really blame them, right? They made a choice. They said, we can't pay Trey Smith and also extend Joe Thuney. They could have kept Joe Thuney this year, but extending him would have been tough. They opted to go with Trey Smith. Trade Thuney, get what we can for him, and we're going to go with Trey Smith and pay him. But now, if you're Kansas City, you got to get a left tackle. Could Ronnie Stanley hit the market? Could they try and poach him from Baltimore? Some chatter that the Ravens are going to try to bring him back. Do they try to move up in the first round and draft a left tackle? Maybe they get a Josh Connerly at 31 if he's able to get there. But they have to get a left tackle, and they have to get one this offseason because their tackle play last year was just brutal. And Jawan Taylor, they're kind of stuck with that contract another year at right tackle. So they got to elevate the left tackle position. Okay, kind of rapid fire here. Some other NFL news. We mentioned it briefly, but Tyler Lockett announced that he's getting cut. Basically said, thank you for the great 10 years, yada, yada. I think he and Christian Kirk, who's also getting released, 2 great wide receiver 3 options out there. Kirk, if healthy, I think still has more juice than Lockett. He's 28, but Lockett, just from a locker room presence, experience, winning standpoint, he's a culture guy. On a buy low situation, I think he's a good fit for a veteran team. Gardner Minshew is going to be released at the start of the new year, so the Raiders officially going in a new direction there. They still have Aiden O'Connell, but they're expected to add a quarterback. Keep an eye on Sam Darnold. They also signed Alex Cappa. John Spytek helped draft and sign him several years ago. Bengals cut him yesterday. Veteran guard. Didn't play very well last year, but come in, be a backup, be a replacement level starter potentially. And then Sam Hubbard, it was initially announced they were just releasing him, but that's because he decided to retire with the Bengals, so he is done. And then this one coming in just before we started filming, Zack Baun re-upping with Philadelphia. 3 years, $51 million, I think 34 guaranteed, so basically a 2+1. We'll see how Howie Roseman structures that. And we'll also see what that means for their other free agents. Milton Williams, Josh Sweat. I think both those guys are gone. Can they still bring back Mekhi Becton? I think they're going to try and get Myles Garrett if he truly becomes available. So, Roseman's going to have a plan, and I do think Bond was their priority one among all their free agents because Philly historically has not paid linebackers, but he's so versatile, and how Vic Fangio uses him, bringing him back was kind of a no-brainer, even if 17 a year is kind of a lot for a guy who's kind of been a one-year wonder at this point. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of 4 Verts. The news is flying in. We're reacting to it all here on the channel. We will continue to do so. So hit that sub button, turn on notifications, and we'll see you soon.